December wind swept through downtown Chicago with a bitter edge that seemed to cut right through winter coats. Robert Mitchell, 42 years old, walked with his daughter Emma's small hand tucked safely in his own. The little girl, just 5 years old, wore a red puffer jacket and matching mittens, her brown curls peeking out from under her knit hat. Robert had been raising Emma alone for 3 years now, ever since his wife passed. Being the CEO of a marketing firm meant long hours, but he'd learned to balance it all. Friday evenings were sacred, their special time together. Tonight, they'd been to see the holiday lights downtown, and Emma had chattered the whole way about the giant snowflakes hanging from the street lamps. "Daddy, look," Emma said suddenly, tugging his hand. She pointed toward a small alcove between two buildings. Robert followed her gaze. In the shadows, barely visible in the dim light, sat a young woman. She couldn't have been more than 25, with tangled blonde hair and a thin jacket that was nowhere near warm enough. But what made Robert's heart clench was the bundle in her arms, a baby, wrapped in what looked like a worn beach towel. "Daddy," Emma whispered, her voice small and urgent. "Her baby is freezing." Robert stopped walking. He'd passed homeless people before, of course. Sometimes he gave money, sometimes he didn't. Life in the city had a way of making you build walls around your heart, just to get through each day. But something about his daughter's words, spoken with such pure concern, stopped him in his tracks. The young mother looked up at them with hollow, exhausted eyes. No plea for help, no outstretched hand. Just a blank, defeated stare that seemed to look right through them. "Emma, stay here for just a moment," Robert said gently. He approached slowly, not wanting to frighten the woman. "Excuse me, miss, are you all right?" She blinked, as if surprised to be spoken to directly. We're okay," she said, but her voice shook, and not just from the cold. The baby in her arms let out a thin, weak cry. Robert could see the infant's lips had a slight blue tint. "What's your name?" he asked, kneeling down to her level. "Sarah," she said quietly. "And this is Grace. She's 4 months old." Robert felt Emma slip her hand into his again. His daughter looked at the baby with such open compassion that it made his throat tight. "Sarah, there's a diner just 2 blocks from here. Would you let me buy you and Grace some dinner? Somewhere warm?" Sarah hesitated, distrust flickering across her face. Robert understood. The world hadn't been kind to her. "Please," Emma said, her voice soft. "The baby needs to get warm." Something in the child's simple honesty seemed to reach Sarah in a way Robert's words hadn't. She nodded slowly and struggled to stand, hampered by weakness and the weight of the baby. Robert instinctively reached out to help her up, and they walked together to Murphy's Diner, a place Robert had been going to for years. The warmth hit them like a wall as they stepped inside, and Sarah actually gasped with relief. They slid into a corner booth, and Robert ordered coffee, soup, sandwiches, whatever Sarah would eat. While they waited, he really looked at her. She was so young, with fear and exhaustion etched into every line of her face. "How long have you been out there?" he asked gently. 2 weeks, Sarah said, cradling Grace close. "I had a place, but I lost my job when Grace got sick and I missed too many shifts. Once you get behind on rent." She trailed off, staring down at her daughter. "I've been trying to keep her warm. Trying to keep her fed. But it's so hard." Emma, sitting pressed against her father's side, suddenly pulled off her own pink scarf. Without a word, she reached across the table and carefully draped it over the baby. "For Grace," Emma said simply. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you so much." The food arrived, and Robert watched Sarah try to eat slowly, with dignity, even though he could tell she was starving. He ordered more food to go, already thinking ahead. "Sarah," he said carefully, "I can't solve everything. But I can help with tonight. There's a women's shelter about 15 minutes from here. They have beds, cribs, hot showers. I called while you were in the restroom. They're holding a spot for you and Grace." "I tried the shelters," Sarah said, her voice breaking. "They've been full every night. This one has space tonight. I made sure of it." Robert paused. "And I'd like to help you get back on your feet, if you'll let me. My company has an entry-level position opening next month. It's not glamorous, just administrative work, but it comes with benefits and childcare assistance." Sarah stared at him, disbelief and hope warring in her expression. "Why would you do this? You don't even know me." Robert glanced at Emma, who was making silly faces at baby Grace, trying to coax a smile from the infant. He thought about his own journey through grief and single parenthood. He thought about all the people who had helped him along the way, often in small, quiet ways. Because someone reminded me tonight that we're all responsible for each other, he said, reaching over to squeeze Emma's hand. And because it's the right thing to do. They drove Sarah and Grace to the shelter in Robert's warm car. As they pulled up to the building, Sarah turned to face them, tears streaming down her face. "I won't forget this," she said. "Either of you. You've given us hope." Emma leaned forward and very gently patted the baby's hand. "Stay warm, Grace," she whispered. As Robert and Emma drove home through the quiet streets, his daughter was unusually reflective. "Daddy," she said finally. "Yes, sweetheart, I'm glad we stopped." Robert felt his eyes sting with unexpected tears. "Me too, Emma, me too." 3 months later, Sarah started working at Robert's company. She showed up every day with determination and gratitude, slowly rebuilding her life. Sometimes she brought Grace by the office, and Emma would visit on weekends just to play with the baby. Robert never told this story to impress anyone, but he thought about it often, about how close he'd come to just walking past. About how his daughter's simple compassion had opened his eyes to what really mattered. In the end, it wasn't about grand gestures or heroic rescues. It was about seeing another person struggle and choosing to help, even in small ways. It was about teaching the next generation that kindness isn't just important, it's everything.